Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today, well, we've been working our way through Shostakovich symphonies because there are just so many fabulous performances of these works. And today, today we're talking about the fourth. Well, what a great piece, an iconic work. The Shostakovich's greatest pre-Stalin symphonic work before his troubles after the premiere of Lady Macbeth of Mtsensk and his change in style as a result of that. I mean, the fourth is an extraordinary piece. It really is. I did a talk on it where we talked about the form and all of that stuff in the repertoire video. And my however choice is, I think, one of the greatest recordings ever. It is this one. It is André Previn with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra on Warner, EMI Warner. It's fun to remember that there was a period when EMI did a bunch of recordings with the Chicago Symphony, particularly with Giulini. You know, they did Mahler 1, they did Bruckner 9, they did music from Berlioz's Romeo and Juliet, and a few other things as well. And they made two recordings with André Previn. The Shostakovich Fifth, which was a remake of his RCA recording of the Shostakovich Fifth with the London Symphony, which was better. On the whole, it was a little bit better. It's not a lot. It's not a huge difference, but it was generally superior. And they did the fourth because Previn was working his way through most of the Shostakovich symphonies. I mean, he did, let's see, which ones did he do? He did 5, 6, 8, 10. That was a digital one. I don't know about 14 or 15, but he did a bunch of them. And he did this fourth. And it's a knockout. I mean, Shostakovich's Fourth is not the most, it's not a romantically expressive piece. It's a hard-edged, mechanistic, modern piece. And in order to play it well, you need a virtuoso orchestra. I mean, a really virtuoso orchestra. And the conducting has to be completely unsubtle and in your face. Now, Previn, interestingly enough, not exactly that kind of a conductor. He actually was more of a gentle soul in a lot of his conducting. But here he had the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, and they just rip into it. And he doesn't do anything eccentric or anything bizarre. He just keeps it moving, which is really all you need to do with this symphony, because it has these two huge outer movements with a scherzo in the middle. And each of those outer movements has a vast range of slow and fast tempi. And the key is to just bind it all together, have it all hang together and make sense, which Previn really does, because he doesn't dawdle over the slow bits. He doesn't rush the quick ones maniacally, which you want in this piece, because you want the piece to have that crushing weight, that power. And if it's too fast, if you take it with you can go crazy in spots, but you really ought not to, because you want the orchestra to really build, to make those climaxes just be pulverizingly strong and sturdy and rhythmic. And that's the kind of performance this is. It was extremely well recorded for its day. It still sounds absolutely phenomenal. Now, there are quite a few very, very fine recordings of Shostakovich's Fourth, starting with, Kondrashin's original one, which some people still swear by. I have a problem with it only because I think it's a little bit on the quick side, but I also think that the sonics are just not good. I mean, it's an old Melodia recording, and yes, you do have that Russian orchestra, which is scarifying in places. But I think there have been better ones since. Then you had people like Yarvi, who are absolutely terrific, and a few other versions like that. And there are a bunch of them that are sort of mediocre, kind of slowish and not terribly interesting, like High Tank, for example, who was disappointing in the fourth, and some other people who just find it, I don't know. They either rush or they dawdle or they try to do too much. When it's all there in the music, you have to trust the music. And that's what Previn does. He really, really does. So here it is. In this particular case, it's in the big Previn box, obviously. It was reissued as a twofer. And this twofer has the Fifth, the Chicago Fifth, and also Britten's 4C interludes and the Passacaglia from Peter Grimes, and the Sinfonia da Requiem, which are also splendid Previn recordings, really first-class recordings of all of the music in question. But the fourth, the Shostakovich fourth, was the major item, the big enchilada. And it remains just an astonishing achievement, and one that people tend to overlook, because Previn, for all that he promoted Shostakovich's music when he was with the London Symphony, did not follow it up in any particular way. He didn't do a complete cycle. And since then, we've had all these Shostakovich specialist people come along who do very good versions of the fourth. They really do. You know, Petrenko and Naxos and other people like that, you know, they're really good. Very, very fine. And you have Michael Sanderling's new Shostakovich cycle. And we have wonderful digital sonics. And we got lots of reasons to overlook one-off recordings of works that are as sort of have become almost cult classics, like Shostakovich's fourth. But don't forget this, because it was, when it came out, I think maybe the second recording of the work after Kondrashin, one of the very few, let's put it that way. And when was it released? Let me just see if it says so. 78, 76, 78, somewhere in there, mid-70s. It was a real rarity, and people didn't really know what to make of it. They weren't quite sure. The piece had not acquired, the respect that it currently enjoys either. And so there was a tendency to sort of forget about this recording, but it would be a terrible mistake, because it is unquestionably one of the greatest recordings ever. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.